Welcome back to another episode of Pass the Syrup, the property-based podcast. It used to be for agents by agents. Now it's for everyone in property. It's featuring some agents, it's featuring some suppliers, it's featuring some people that fall into both categories. But it's the property-based podcast. It's called Pass the Syrup because there's quite a lot of waffle, and such is life. That's what we're good at. Today, I'm joined by two fantastic guests. First up, Megan 18, a force in the industry, now a team member at Swindon Home Finders, and I'm told president-elect or something like that. Megan, hi, how's it going? Tell us what is it? Go on, tell us.
I'm going to bring my mug here, my Propertymark mug. Yes, very proud to be the president-elect for ARLA Propertymark. But did you notice that you changed the rules the moment that you became a supplier? I'm just saying.
Wow, we've gone straight there. But yeah, we did change the rules because it's my freaking podcast.
Fair.
But actually, just to be clear, I am an agent, just so everyone knows, just dabble in other bits and pieces. That sounds weird. Let's get on to the other guest. Rowan Waller, the property pen, roughly 4 weeks into his new career. The man is a writing genius. Annoyingly so. I think I even mentioned that on a piece of content he posted recently. Rowan, sir, how's it going?
It's going very well indeed. Yeah, and I am officially not an agent. I've given that up after 20 years of being an agent. I've stepped right out of it. But stayed in this. So that's why I was very careful to say retired from frontline estate agency. And I did have people call and say, "Oh, you're a real loss to the industry." I was like, "Oh, wait till Monday."
Yeah, no, I like that. So this is we are filming for everyone's benefit a few days after Rowan left the industry and returned to the industry. In true, I should have had a really good example. Who left and came straight back? Anyone? Any good examples? Celebrities? I'm out.
What was that?
Didn't take long.
What was it? David Cameron, he came back round, didn't he? Like a boomerang.
Yeah. Michael Jordan. That I think, the legend that is Michael Jordan. Probably take that. Tried baseball for a little while, came back.
Take that. You said take that. I don't think you meant to, but take that, the band. Let's be honest. They left, they came back. They're in and out like the hokey cokey.
In and out like the hokey cokey. That is a sign on my parents' wall at home. What if it is all about the hokey cokey? What if it is? So, Rowan, tell us a bit about your business. Let's give you the airwaves for 30 seconds. Tell us all about it.
Well, my business is basically allowing me to combine the two things I like the most, which is property, which I've done for 20 years, but I was sort of not liking the estate agency side of property. But I do know an awful lot about it, and it's writing, which I was kind of getting into over the last 5 years. Again, having sort of done that as my sort of passion since I was a child. Like literally, I submitted my first manuscript to Penguin Books when I was 7 years old. So yeah, now I can do both things. And what I do is I offer ghost written or white label content writing to estate agents. So it's blogs, articles. I could do newsletters. I could look at their tout campaigns. I could do copy. I feel like I'm more content than copy, but anything that needs words is I'm your man. Apart from when I need to speak words and can't think of anything to say.
Anything that needs words.
Yeah, if you want words writing, if you want words writing, script writing, Ben Madden.
I will bear that in mind. So that's enough of the advertorial. Great stuff, Ryan. Really pleased for you. And actually, it segues beautifully into the subject matter that we're going to discuss today, and that is agents that do stuff outside the 9 till 5 or look at work in the property sector that doesn't necessarily fall into the standard go to the office and be an agent. So Megan, I'm going to start with you because you've got lots of experience in this world. Tell us a bit about the different bits and pieces you do, how you got into that, why you do that. How, is it all it's made out to be, or you're just working constantly?
I am working constantly. Yes, that's true. I think that the nice part about what I've landed on is I get to do a bit of everything that I like. And like it's always hard to get that perfect balance, isn't it? And the reality is that the more we go up the ladder in businesses and with experiences, the less detached, more detached even you get from the, you know, being out on the ground. So for me, it's about kind of almost keeping a little bit of, you know, fingers in lots of pies. So I do 4 days a week in a senior management team at Home Finders in Swindon, and we're doing loads of different stuff. But then 1 day a week, I go and do consultancy work with my business, my little side hustle that I call Nutshell, which I don't actually really talk about at all, but it's just sort of buried within my LinkedIn. But actually, it's essentially consultancy work. So I've been doing a consultancy project with a new homes company. It's been super fun because it means that I get involved with every stage from planning all the way through to dressing houses. And then, of course, all my voluntary work I get to do with like Propertymark. So I get to turn all the regulatory and nerdy stuff on with that. And then I get to get a bit of female empowerment with the women in residential property. So yeah.
I didn't realize you were part of Women in Residential Property. That's interesting. So because Women in Estate Agency were on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. So give us some content around women in residential property.
I mean, essentially they do the same things. I mean, obviously we cover a little bit of a wider base in terms of, we've got surveyors, we've got like a prop tech division. So what we've actually done recently is divide it into sections. So I actually chair the lettings group, co-chair it with my colleague Sophie. And basically we work together in that group, specializing in lettings. So there's like divisions for everything, including well-being. So essentially all of these groups, we all want the same thing, and that is to have, you know, equality, to have good representation, to make sure panels are nice and diverse. And I think as long as we all work together, there's a space for everything, really.
Okay, cool. So let's go back to the consultancy work you do. That I imagine ears are pricking up right now. Agents listening to this, all 6 of them, are thinking, oh, that sounds quite interesting. How did you get into that? How did that start? Where did that come from?
Well, it all happened over the summer by accident, really. So I found myself in a position where I needed to make some massive decisions about my career. And I was, funny enough, talking about it with you guys earlier, that, you know, I toyed with the idea of setting up a business on my own. And I really didn't want to rush any decisions about what businesses I wanted to align with. And out of the blue, I had a prop tech company and the new homes company reach out to be like, hey, like, will you do some consultancy work whilst you're, you know, working out your next role? So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And so I set up the business, and then it just sort of, it's very much a, you know, project by project. And if it's not something that I feel that I want to do, or I've got the time, I pass on to somebody else, which is what I've done recently on a project. I didn't want to spread myself too thin and give a rubbish service. So yeah, so basically I take it on a very small basis, stuff that I get really excited about. And yeah, I think it's fun. I love it. Super fun. Doing the prop tech one was magical.
So that sounds, I mean, it does sound really cool. It does sound really interesting. And I'm certain that agents are thinking, well, I'd love to be getting messages like that. That, you know, and so I guess let's be clear, we're not advising people, hand your notice in and inquiries are going to be flooding in for you to do this consultancy work. But Megan, if you were going to advise someone how to get into that space, or, you know, if they want to start to think about getting into that space, this is not an overnight thing, right? I guess, you know, you are a face in our industry. So maybe you fall into a slightly different category.
I think that's, to be fair, but you see, I think investing in your personal brand, and it was interesting. I had a conversation with a colleague recently about the power of personal brand. I hate the term personal brand, but I can't think of a better one right now. But basically we talked about
Rowan, are you laughing? You know, I hate that.
It's just
well, I mean, yeah, but I don't think there's a better word for it, because the alternative is reputation, but I think that doesn't quite cover it.
Digital reputation. There you go. My digital reputation. I made a lot of investment in that early on, and I think I was one of the kind of early doors for that, which is sort of given me a really good platform in our industry. But also I'm really good at making sure that I share my skills online, and I think that then people kind of go, oh yeah, she knows how to do that, we should talk to her about that. And I think that we quite often think, oh, what's the point of personal branding, you know, if it doesn't directly help me here in my hometown? But actually, when you need something, you'd be amazed at what comes your way. when you've got a wider network, and that can involve discounts, testing out tech, job offers, consultancy. I mean, honestly, if you'd asked me last summer when I was going through hell what the outcome would be, I would not tell you that financially it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because that consultancy piece, because consultancy pays so well, that consultancy piece was amazing for me. And so it was a no-brainer. I wasn't going to drop that. So, making sure you align with the right business that support that too.
Yeah, I mean, I interrupted you and I apologize for that. The personal branding term drives me round the bend, because so much language today has been invented for the sake of language. Like, do we need it? Your personal brand is so, it's your CV, it's who you are, it's what you believe in, it's your ethos, it's just who you are, it's your story, I think. And when you apply personal branding, people perceive it as, oh, I need to have my face on camera all the time. Not necessarily. I mean, that hasn't, believe it or not, cameras used to just point forwards. Actually, it wasn't always look at me. So, but I think
it's also why I would say that digital reputation doesn't quite cut it either, because actually I think the reputation has to supersede digital only, and it is still about what people say in the room when you're not there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It spans wider. So I'll tell you an example. Yesterday I was in the office, in our North Swindon office. Nobody knows who I am in Swindon. Like, they couldn't care less in terms of like the general public. And I kind of love that. And I was sat in the office and somebody walked past with a corgi. Now, I've got 3 corgis, for full disclosure. If you didn't know that, then you clearly don't follow me. And
got a bit of a personal branding issue there. Go on.
It's a major part of my branding. I'll be using my expenses for my tax return. And 2 corgis walked past the office, and I literally went, legged it out the office, chased these poor people down the street. Anyway, invited them back in the office, and I'm like woodging their dogs. I'm having like a great time. And I said, oh, are you part of the UK Corgi Club? Yeah, we are. And I went, oh, it's lovely to meet you. What's your name? And I'll tag you in the pictures. And they said, and I said, oh, I'm Megan. She went, oh, are you Megan 18? And I went, yeah. She went, you're the one that does all the property stuff with the corgis, aren't you? And I went, yes, I am. That's me.
And so you perfectly teed me up, because I wanted to say this a moment ago, that when it comes to personal branding or storytelling, which is, I much prefer the term telling your story, social media or digital allows for the most extreme confirmation bias on the planet. So I will see on my social media feed whatever I'm interested in. The algorithms, the AI, the tech is amazing. And this is the exact perfect, the corgi people have seen you because you have corgis in common. But what it means is they know you're into property, because confirmation bias led them to you. You both like the same thing. You like corgis. I can't stress this enough. And Rowan, we're going to get to you in a minute, but everything Megan has just said has come from awareness, an awareness of who she is, what she believes in, what she cares about. And that awareness is from being online. Like, there is a piece that you must actually get on with doing it.
You've got to do it. But also, like, one thing I will say is there's been loads of like carbon copies of different people coming out. There's only one Ben. There is only one Rowan. There is only one Megan. So like, don't try and be a brand that you're seeing online, or a person that you're seeing online because you think, oh, they're successful, I'll try and do the same. It doesn't work. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect example of bullshit estate agency trying to be someone you're not. There's people see through that. See it for a mile off. We've got a reputation because we've tried to be somebody else. Best agents on the planet are themselves. They're authentic. They don't put on a show. Authentic. Rowan, one of the words I would use to describe you, you are, in fact, at times, and the last season's podcast, you might even be the anti-estate agent. And what I say that, not because you are against agents, because you have taken a genuine consumer position around things like property prices.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very often, I remember us having a conversation, not very often you hear an agent say, actually, I think property prices rising is not a good thing.
Mm.
And that is true authenticity. You wouldn't hear a lot of agents do that. So I don't know where I'm leading with this.
I don't know where you're leading either. I mean, I guess, but that, I think, I don't know whether I've crafted a personal brand or not, but I think you're exactly right, Megan. I think you can't craft one. Your personal brand is what you are, but you need to show it, basically. And I think what I have always been
You're
is
the poems guy, Ro.
Well,
Poems guy.
quite.
Oh no,
So,
I think see. That's really interesting. Megan thinks of you as the poems guy.
100%.
I think of you as the guy with the girl that runs.
Well, yeah, that's true, and both things are true, and both things are my authentic life. And I quite early on when I had Waller's estate, so not when I was employed, but as Waller's estate agents, I just started to put my personal life out there, you know, within reason, and sometimes it was linked to property, and sometimes it was just what I do on the weekend, and actually a lot of my customers that then bought into me as a human being that they found a bit more interesting and relatable than an estate agent. But they knew I was a human being that had an interest and a knowledge of how to sell houses. So it just works. And actually, we went to a birthday party a couple of weeks ago, and 3 people in that room came up to me, and so literally someone said, "Oh, you're the goat man. You're the goat with the £5 note." And I'm like, "Well, I'm the man who wrote about a goat with a £5 note." But 3 people came up to me because they recognised me as being the author rather than the estate agent. They know I'm an estate agent as well, I think. Well, at least 2 of them did. But what they knew me for was writing. And I suppose I did have it in mind for a few months that I might go into what I've gone into, writing on behalf of the property industry. But I suppose I didn't have that in mind when I just started putting out the fact that I was creative. But what people now know me for, from a property point of view, if I were the property pen, because what the property pen is as a concept is providing this content, telling the story. It's more about storytelling. So you actually nailed it. It's more about storytelling about what's going on in the market, so that it connects with an audience. Because you can talk about interest rates coming down, but unless that's relatable to an audience, they kind of don't care and don't read it. So you've got to tell the story behind it. And the thing is, people do know me for being in my content more loquacious and more garrulous and more wordy, basically. And it's now struck a chord. And so actually the response I've had from doing this, what I've just gone and done, is people saying, "Oh, that's a perfect fit. That's exactly what you should be doing." Because it literally combines. Someone called it ikigai. I had to look it up.
That's the screensaver on my computer at home. That concept.
And as soon as I read it, I thought, and I said, I'm going to nick that for a future social media post. It's exactly what it is.
You know what you should do, Ben? I have to firstly apologise and say, if you can hear heavy breathing, it's not me. I've got a dog right here.
Yeah. Funny, we can't see the dog.
He's right. I'll get him out. I will get him. But imagine if you put like Rowan and Toby Martin in like a word like rap battle on here.
This is
imagine.
It's the next episode.
Honestly, that's going to go viral, Ben. You're welcome. Get it booked.
Rowan, I thought you were just dropping a classic Dre album there.
Oh no.
Next episode.
I feel like he's more of like an Eminem guy.
I reckon, Rowan's music taste is eclectic. Actually, I found that out recently.
I can't even tell you what my music taste is.
I'm literally going to take a picture right now to prove there's a dog sat here. Right.
It looks like you're taking a picture of us, but okay. Train of thought. Yeah. So this is how our podcasts go. We can end up anywhere. But sorry, Rowan. Back to
whoa. Don't move on. Why don't you tell us now about the fact that you're now not just an estate agent? Oh, he's got his own other business. Why don't you tell us about that now, Ben? Don't just ask us questions.
Okay, I'm happy to be grilled. I've got no problem with that. I was just gonna. All right, you know what? I'll segue beautifully into it. Something Rowan said that will allow me to talk about the future of estate agency advertising for every agent on the planet, and it's the service you all need. But I'll get to that in a second. Rowan, you talk about the GOAT. You talk about I think of, because I like activity in sports and have seen your girls and how fast she is insane and scary and amazing. And Megan, you knew Rowan for poetry, and that is so much more important than the house you sold last week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who cares? I mean, except for 10 houses either side of that specific property, nobody. And I just think that's like, so everyone throws this example around about Richard Branson, social media, 34 million followers, the Virgin Group across all its platforms, 1.5 million followers, because the individual, the person has stories that are interesting and intriguing. And
I think it was
selling
like,
London.
Is it 79%? I will fact check that, but it was, me and Toby put it in a presentation. I think it was 79% of people trust businesses more when their senior management are active on social media,
Visible.
talking about like the business.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, and you would, wouldn't you? You absolutely would. There's accountability that in big businesses that often gets lost. But if you can see the face of that business, and the face of the business is saying exactly what they're saying to you in a one-to-one conversation, the trust goes through the roof. I remember posting content in our old business about the market in 2018 or 2019 when we were doing market updates on video. That it wasn't common, and from time to time you get a sticky property, bit difficult. They don't necessarily agree with the feedback, but they're taking it and they're believing it. And the reason we ended up getting it sold is because they watched the videos online, and I wasn't a point of contact for this person. I just remember getting the story and them saying they weren't listening to us, but they watched your video 4 weeks in a row, and you've never spoke to them, but the managing director of Thorgills, which was a market leader in a particular area, saying that online means the feedback must be genuine. It's the truth because it completely aligns with what we're saying. And so that is just so powerful if you're willing to put content out there. And so, yeah, let's get into the new business. Digital Spark.
What a segue.
What a beautiful segue. It looks like this is set up. It's just, we are such old pros at podcasting, us three. We just know how to get it done. So Digital Sparks is the new business, and it is about storytelling through video, specifically short form video content. And it can be telling the story of the brand or telling the story of the individual. But I genuinely believe the future, I mean, firstly, of entertainment and content is video. You just think about how we absorb content, how we now entertain ourselves. It used to be radio, then it was TV, then it was TV on demand, and now it's I watch 30-second videos of things I'm not even remotely interested in. But it gets 45 minutes a night. And so if that's where the consumer spends their time, that's where businesses need to be present and relevant. And so we've developed a offering that provides that to agents in a really, I would describe it as efficient, cost-effective, low in terms of labor. We do everything. We see you for a really small period of time, and we do it all for you and have a bit of fun doing it. But I don't want to turn this into a pitch. That's what we're going to do. That's what we are doing. If you want to give me a shout, feel free to. If you need copywritten, you need to speak to Rowan. If you need consultancy, it's Megan.
Well, I mean, or if you just want to talk about dogs.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's another thing. If you want to talk about exercise and losing weight, us three, we are all over it.
We're like athletes. Honestly, I know what people are thinking when they logged on. Who are these trio of athletes?
I mean, like, I used to say something like that, and my mates would say, yeah, you're right. You look a bit like you play darts. Okay, well, yeah, fine. Take it. But we are doing the 75 hard, medium, soft exercising.
I'm definitely on the soft. I'm on the soft side of soft as well.
But in case anyone doesn't know, we have talked as a collective. There's about 30 of us in the world of property. We're all in a WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group has to be muted because of the amount of content being thrown into that group. Culprit number 1 and 2 are definitely on this podcast. Yeah. I feel obliged to set it up. But Megan, sweetheart, you are relentless, but good for you. You are keeping that group alive.
I just don't believe about being a part of something if you're not willing to be involved.
All in. She's all in.
So, like, if you're in, you're in. If you're out, you're out. So if somebody's doing a run, I'm going to say, well done. No,
you should. I know I'm serious. You're keeping that group alive. You are the heartbeat of the group.
Can we please make sure we're all getting our water goals in bed? I haven't seen you drink at all during this podcast.
You have. Look how much I've got through. I only started this an hour and a half ago.
Rowan forgot his water. This is going terrible for him.
Yeah, I know. I've had about half a litre already. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Right. So we've done the main content. We've talked a bit about things people can do outside of agency. There's some information floating around right now about sort of what people are being paid, remuneration in the industry. There's a lot of talk around self-employed agency. That's a bit of a buzz right now. We all know that. And it may be the future of agency. The crystal balls are coming out fairly regularly from those with vested interest in that model. But the reason I just sort of to put a bow on this subject matter is there are clearly alternative options. If you find the position you're in right now isn't for you, Megan is as a hybrid, doing a bit of both worlds. Rowan has transitioned completely into the new world, but stayed in the property sector. Look, I guess what's the advice we can give? Be creative. What advice would you give if someone's thinking about a change and they don't know what direction to go in? What advice would either of you give?
I mean, I think you have to follow your own, but your own love within the industry. So there is something that you love about the industry. If you're having a hard time in the industry, there is still something. Well, it depends if you've been in it for a year or you've been in it for 20 years. But let's say you've been in it for 10 years plus. There's something that's kept you in it for a decade. Right? It won't necessarily be the paycheck, and it won't be the Wednesday calls to solicitors. There'll be something that's but do you know what? Maybe it is the Wednesday call to solicitors. Maybe that's what you like the most. So, for example, is there a little niche in becoming a sales progression expert? Maybe you can outsource your, some sort of skill. So I would think it depends which route people want to go down. If you're talking about doing something that's outside of this 9-to-5 estate agency role, but you still want to make money in property, what is your niche within property that you think you can take forward? So, for example, I sold my estate agency. I then went to work for the estate agent that I'd sold to for over a year. But I found that I could not bear 9-to-5 anymore. And the idea was that I wasn't meant to be doing 9-to-5 anymore, but it became that actually that's kind of what was expected. Going to the office, and I was like, well, I ain't coming in before 10. And, stay there basically at a desk if you needed to. And I sort of don't see the point in that anymore as an estate agent. And that's not to say that model of estate agency doesn't work, but it really wasn't for me. So I had to take myself out of it. Otherwise I was going to go mad. And then I had to think, what do I do? And of course, what I liked about estate agency was communicating and doing the content and doing that sort of thing. So that became my natural way out. So I would think, find what you love within this job and then focus on that as your major and offer it. For example, if it's consultancy, just consult on the thing that you love and you're good at, rather than consult on the general stuff that doesn't float your boat.
That's good advice. I think for me, and this is going to sound like major corny now, I think you need to find your why. So like my why is 100% my little boy. I want him to have everything. When people are like, I don't want to spoil my kids. I want to spoil him. I want to take him to Disneyland. I want to take him, everywhere. And for me, the big thing was, as a mum, I found the balance when you work in a traditional setup really difficult to be able to without feeling like compromised. I want to pick up my kid from school a couple of days a week. I don't think that's asking too much. And so when I started looking at my options, I'm not joking, I spoke to a handful of recruiters and every one of them said, you will not be able to get a job as flexible as you want it. You will not make the money that you want for it. You are going to have to work, in London 5 days a week, 8 till 8, weekends. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so for me, it was a way of being able to obviously create, do things that I enjoy. It was totally by fluke. And quite frankly, I'm booked now until the summer. I couldn't fit any more in. But having the flexibility of an employer that gets all of that, and then on top of that, doing that piece on the side, I think making sure that you're not just doing the job because you want a paycheck, because ultimately life's when you're on your deathbed, are you going to be happy that you got the handbag, or are you going to be happy you spent time with your kids when they're small? So I think knowing what's important to you, and if it is the handbag, that's totally fine.
Yeah, and that's the point, isn't it? It's personal. Whatever is your thing, just do your thing. I heard a brilliant quote. You may know who it was. I've forgotten who it was, but it's other people's opinion of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
And I just thought that is so good.
It's so true. And I think as well, like I went through a really steep learning curve over the last sort of 6 months of last year about how I felt about our industry. And I felt like I didn't really want to be a part of it, I'll be honest. And I had to kind of fall back in love with it. And this, like the companies that sort of reached out to me to work with me, I never asked them if they wanted help. It just landed on my plate. And it sort of gave me a little bit of like oh, okay, I do know what I'm doing and I am okay. And this is all going to be okay. And I think that's important too. But taking time to consider your future is important.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and so I'll just add to exactly what you two have just, I mean, I'll reaffirm if you like. I quite like what I've always done. Yeah, I've always quite enjoyed the business. Not necessarily the property side, because I haven't been front of house for probably 90% of that journey, but I've always enjoyed the interactions with my team, the agents, running the business, the strategy, the marketing. And of course, business ownership comes with its highs and its lows, and there are tough times, and that's life. And you learn to. It's scary what you get used to, I think, actually. But in the new business, I posted on LinkedIn about the launch of it, and I realized, I mean, Ryan, maybe I should run my content past you, and you can just check it for me. But someone pointed out it came to me third hand, that I'd actually said that I'm so excited, or I haven't been this pumped about doing something. I can't remember the last time I was. And I think it's because I love to do it. Like it ticks. I love the marketing side, and somehow I've decided that I love helping other agents. And that sounds really cheesy and naff, but when you do something for 20 years, you learn to love it. And I love the training side of our business, and so I'm so excited to get on with doing it. And someone pointed out that the way I phrased it, I made it sound like I'm more excited about this than my 3 children. I was like,
oh yeah, but that's like, it's totally different though, because like I talk about things that I'm really proud about, and of course you're proud of your kids, but when you're on LinkedIn talking about business, it's okay to be proud about your business.
I won't read the sentence, but when I read it back, I mean, I used the 3 girls in the sentence, and it does, reading it back, it's something like, we've launched businesses, I've exited businesses, I've got 3 children, but this feels special. I think that's what I said.
Yeah, mate.
Oh yeah.
There was a slight, yeah.
I take back all the defense. I take it back.
How do you know that I don't use ChatGPT for my content? Because it would have never let me put that out there.
Yeah, I think you've got to employ somebody.
Yeah, Rowan, yeah. Maybe there's a conversation to be had, because I can't be trusted with a keyboard.
Otherwise, he's going to end up divorced. So we probably need to.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's Freudian, but okay. Let's highlight a brilliant agent that everybody should be following or watching, because we've talked about personal brand, and let's help promote a couple of personal brands that could really benefit other agents to be aware of. So, Megan, who are you going to shout out? Who's a great agent we should all be aware of?
Can I have 2, please, Ben?
Everybody says this. Of course you can.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'm going to give it to Sophie Lang, who's down in Cornwall. So if you don't follow Sophie, she went from buying the business to growing the business to being one of the largest independent agents down in Cornwall. I mean, like, it's obscene, like to the point that we joke that every time Property Industry Eye says a business has been acquired, we go, oh, what she bought? She bought another one. We don't even ask her if it's her anymore. So Sophie Lang, she's doing a massive sort of push on her socials at the moment, and she's doing a wonderful job. So we definitely recommend Soph. And then I recently met a lady called Suzanne Smith at a event, like literally last week, and she writes the Independent Landlord blog, and it's really, really good content, and it's really digestible content, especially around the Renters' Rights Bill. And I would say to anybody, whether they work in sales or lettings, you need to understand a little bit of it, even if it's a base level. And she breaks it down like a really nice way. So I would recommend not only following her, but subscribing to her blog.
That's excellent recommendation. Just to make it really easy for everyone, underneath in the show notes, all these people will be linked. So really easy to find them. We'll make it easy for you. Rowan, who's shouting out?
I'm going to shout out a mate of mine who has just taken the brave step of going self-employed. So he is called David Pratt. he is taken on the Avenue franchise, I guess it is, in Wallingford. So he was once my assistant manager at Chancellor's, and then went and managed an office for himself, and then he's been in management for another couple of estate agents, and now he's taken the plunge. So yeah, David Pratt of the Avenue, Wallingford, and he's really embraced social media straight away. So so he is putting his videos out and putting his content out, and I wish everyone would give him a little helping hand.
Okay, we'll definitely promote those guys. And then final thing before we go, we've just talked about, you've just mentioned David, who's going his own way. Lots of it happening right now. Lots of people thinking about getting into their own business. Rowan, you've just done it. Megan, you've got fantastic experience. If you want to give those people one piece of advice to try and win, what would it be?
Are you talking about self-employed estate agents in particular, or just self-employed?
No, I think yeah, you know what? Why not? Let's go specific. Let's go self-employed agency.
So specifically, the people taking on like underneath a model, underneath an umbrella, the sort of self-employed model underneath a wider umbrella. Okay.
I would say be yourself.
Megan.
Yeah, I think be yourself. There's that really great Dr. Seuss quote. It's like, there's no one newer than you. And I think that you spend all your time trying to be a persona, but actually if you're yourself, and sometimes I let my weird out and I think maybe I shouldn't have done that, but actually I think it's quite endearing. And so I would say be yourself.
Good, lovely. No, I don't like fake it till you make it personally. I'm quite anti that one. I know that's really like positive TED talk. But I think people that call themselves property experts after 3 months, whoa, no. Be yourself, wear that as a badge of honor. Yeah, that's great. Rowan?
Well, let's say, I would say Shogun Art of War then. So choose your battlefield. I think that's probably where you want to go if you are, because you are one person. You might have the power of an umbrella behind you, but you've got to punch through some noise. So the best way to do that is to pick a little niche and try and punch into that field. So whether that, and I think the only thing is about self-employed is a lot of them go after the same kind of, they're all after the very big properties that will pay them a nice big fee, and then they'll only need 10 of them a year and they'll be doing quite well. And I guess the only thing that worries me about self-employed is whether or not all the kind of the 3-bed semis on the estates are just getting left behind somehow and not getting cared for and looked after, because people are going to need to sell 30 of them in a year to sort of make the same money. But if I were going self-employed, when in fact this is what I did when I went self-employed, that would be my battlefield, is go, you know what, I'm going to go and look after them that aren't getting any of that love and attention, and give them some of that.
Isn't it nice though when you deal with that part of the market though, and someone like a first-time buyer comes to collect their keys
100%.
and they're so excited, and like it just makes me feel like happy inside.
Yeah, personally, I always found a lot more human interest in that level of the market, in that end of the market. So, and that's what I was interested in. So
yeah,
and I'd say there's nothing wrong with the upper market, and there's people that do it very well, but people are always trying to recommend that that's what I went into. And I was like, no, because that's not actually me. Not as my what I love in this property market. And I suppose it never was, because I came up through corporate and I was never involved in that upper end. Doesn't mean I'm not right about it, by the way.
So, sorry, I spoke over you, Rowan. Say that again.
I said it doesn't mean that I can't write about that end of the market. So, let's be really clear.
Ben, can I tell you a secret though?
Well, yeah, I mean, it won't be a secret for long, but go on.
So I did try to hijack this podcast offline, and I said to Rowan, I was like, Ben's going to ask for like funny stories. Let's make up a funny story.
Wow.
The two of us. And then I was like, and everything you say, I'll just carry it on like we're in like drama school and see if we can come up with the most elaborate story. Anyway, it flopped because neither of us could come up with a good enough story that was actually realistic.
Let me tell everyone a secret, that Lettings in a Nutshell this morning was suggesting that she might change her name to Lettings in a Nutsack.
Look, all I'm saying is that if Lettings gets hit as bad as people think, we really do have to have our backup options, Ben. We've talked about that today. Someone's got to pay for all the protein shakes.
Well, there's definitely a joke there, but I'm going to leave that one right alone. Okay, guys, this has been really good. Of course it is. You two are superstars. thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
See you
Thanks,
next
Ben.
time. Thank you for
You're
having
all right.
me.
You're all right too.